Hello, welcome back to my channel, Hissy Books. Today I am yet again reacting and discussing a book prize. I'm sorry, it's almost done for this month, I swear. So basically in the last kind of 2 weeks, lots of prizes have announced their long list. There are far too many. They should really spread it out more. Talk to each other, please. Spread it out, We'd love to just have months dedicated to reading your list. Now we can't do all at once. Anyway, so today we're going to discuss the Jhalak Prize. This is a British-based prize that celebrates and highlights British authors or British residents, authors of color. So BAM is kind of the word that they go with. I started following this prize a couple of years ago, and I found such interesting book and new to me authors, and it's really cool to be celebrating the diversity of voices that is present in the UK. And yeah, I'm all here for supporting it and highlighting that prize, which is why I'm doing a video. I will not be reading the list because I do not have time right now, but I will definitely be looking these books up and adding some to my TBR. And at first glance, there are definitely some that are already on my TBR, and I've definitely heard from some of these books, which is great. And also, you may have seen my recent video about the International Booker Prize, and I'll say my first impression covers were a bit boring for me. This is the opposite. I'm just attracted to every single book on this list. The covers are so kind of appealing and standing out to me, which is great. I will not be looking at the YA and children's list because I just don't like that kind of books as much. But please feel free to go and check it out if you enjoy YA and middle grade and children's literature. But we're looking at the, main prize, and there are 12 books on the long list, and I'm very excited about many of these. And the Jhalak Prize, is good to say here that they do any book. Non-fiction, fiction, poetry, short stories, like anything. So it's quite a good mix as well of kinds of voices and perspective and storytelling. So yeah, let's dive right in. I will scroll over to leave a space here. The first book is None of the Above by Travis Alabanza. In None of the Above, Travis Alabanza examines 7 phrases that people have directed at them with their gender identity. These phrases have stayed with them over the years, and some are deceptively innocuous, some deliberately loaded and offensive, some celebratory. Sentences that have impacted them for better or for worse. Sentences that speak to the broader issues raised by a world that insists that gender must be binary. Oh, that sounds really interesting. It sounds like nonfiction to me. And I would definitely add it to my TBR. And I'm always looking for different voices. And I feel like I haven't read many things by kind of non-binary authors. So I look forward to reading their voice and seeing what they have to say, especially when it's something so personal. I look forward to this one actually. Next we have Birdgirl by Mya-Rose Craig. Discover a powerful, evocative, and urgent new voice in nature writing. Ooh, sounds great. Meet Mya-Rose, otherwise known as Birdgirl. Birder, environmentalist, diversity activist. To date, she has seen over 5,000 different types of bird, half the world's species. Ooh, that's impressive. Every single bird a treasure, each citing a small step in her family journey, a collective moment of joy and stillness, and each helping her to find her voice. Since she was young, she has visited every continent to pursue her passion, seeing firsthand the inequality and reckless destructions we are inflicting on our fragile planet. And this simple, mindful act of looking for birds has made her ever more determined to campaign for all our survival. This is her story, a journey defined by her love of these extraordinary creatures. Because large or small, brown, patterned, or jeweled, there is something about birds that makes us, even just for a moment at a time, lift our eyes away from our lives and up to the skies. Ah, just that blurb, beautiful. This is so great to see because I feel like with environmentalism, young or older, the big voices are often white-centric, and it's great to see an author of color being highlighted, and I look forward to hearing. I'm just so impressed by young voices these days as well. I feel like they're doing so much, and I just think it's great to be lifting them up, to give them even more power with their voice. Next we have Takeaway, Stories from a Childhood Behind the Counter by Angela Hui. This has been on my TBR for months, so I'm so excited to see it here because I'm very, very interested in reading this book. It's been kind of on my list to buy, like in my basket for ages. So this is definitely a reason to buy it. It says, growing up in a Chinese takeaway in rural Wales, Angela Hui was made aware of a very young age of just how different she and her family were seen by her local community. From attacks on her shopfront, in other words, their home, to verbal abuse from customers and confrontations that ended with her dad wielding the meat cleaver, life growing up in a takeaway was far from peaceful. But alongside the strife, there was also beauty and joy in the rhythm of life in the takeaway and in being surrounded by the food of her own culture. Family dinners were before service, research trips to Hong Kong, preparing for the weekend rush with her brothers. The takeaway is a hive of activity before a customer even places their order of egg fried rice and chop suey. Bring readers along on the journey from Angela's earliest memories in the takeaway to her family closing the shop after 30 years of business. This is a brilliantly warm and immersive memoir from someone on the other side of the counter. Oh, that sounds so interesting, and I have friends who literally have grown up like this, and I cannot wait to read this book and learn more about it. So yeah, very excited to see it here. Oh, such a great list up to now. Next we have, I think it's our first fiction, is The Attic Child by Lola, Jaye. The description says it's about two children trapped in the same attic almost a century apart, but bound by a secret. In 1907, we have 12-year-old Celestine spends most of his time locked in an attic room of a large house by the sea. Taken from his homeland and treated as an unpaid servant, he dreams of his family in Africa, even if, as a year passes, he struggles to remember his mother's face and sometimes his real name. Decades later, Laura, a young orphan girl born to wealth and privilege, will find herself banished in the same attic. Lying under the floorboards in the room is an old porcelain doll, an unusual beaded claw necklace, and most curiously, a sentence etched in the wall behind an old cupboard, written in an unidentifiable language. Artifacts that will offer her a strange kind of comfort and lead her to believe that she was not the first child to be imprisoned here. That sounds harrowing. I would definitely read that, but it sounds harrowing. Next, we have The Secret Diaries of Charles Ignatius Sancho by Paterson Joseph. I remember seeing this one, I think it's on the Walter Prize Longlist as well for historical fiction, and I think Katie from Books and Things talked about this when she reviewed the Longlist. And I remember this was one of the only books that I was like, I definitely want to read this one. It says, meet Charles Ignatius Sancho. His extraordinary story, hidden for 300 years, is about to be told. Discover Georgian London as you've never seen it before. I had little right to live, born on a slave ship where my parents both died, but I survived, and indeed you might say I did more. It's 1746 and Georgian London is not a safe place for a young black man, especially one who has escaped slavery. After the twinkling lights in the Fleet Street coffee shops are blown out and the great houses are closed their doors for the night, Sancho is utterly alone. The man he hoped would help is dying, and Sancho is desperate. And yet, the same Sancho will go on to thread the boards of London's theatres, become a highly acclaimed musician and composer, lead the fight to end slavery, meet the king, and become the very first black person to vote in Britain. It's time for him to tell his story, one that begins on a tempestuous Atlantic Ocean and ends at the very center of London life. And through it all, he must ask, born amongst death, how much can you achieve in one short life? I'm so excited about this book. Oh my gosh, the actor from Peep Show. I just saw that. Oh my god, that's so funny. Well, I don't know how well he writes or not, but I'm excited for this book. Next we have When We Were Birds by Ayanna Lloyd Banwo. This also sounds like fiction. So Darwin is a down-on-his-luck gravedigger, newly arrived in the Trinidadian city of Port Angeles to seek his fortune. Young and beautiful and lost. Estranged from his mother and the Rastafari faith she taught him, he is convinced that the father he never met may be waiting for him somewhere amid these bustling streets. Meanwhile, in an old house on a hill, where the city meets the rainforest, Yejide, his mother, is dying, and she is leaving behind a legacy that now passes to Yejide. The power to talk to the dead. Oh my god. Literally, I'm sold on this book already. I cannot wait to read this book as well. Oh, the Jhalak Prize is coming through with this list. Okay. The women in Yejide's family are human, but also not, descended from Kolpo, the blackbirds that fly east to sunset. taking with them the soul of the dead. Darwin and Yejide both have something that the other needs. Their destinies are intertwined, and they will find one another in the sprawling ancient cemetery at the heart of the island, where trouble is brewing. I don't know if I've read anything from an author from Trinidad before, so excited as well. Okay, so many different voices and stories. Woo. Okay, sorry, this is giving me a lot of... Next we have Here Again Now by Okechukwu and Nzelu. So this seems to be a novel as well. Achike Okoro feels like his life is coming together at last. His top floor flat in Peckham is as close to home as you can imagine, and after years of hard work, he's about to get his break as an actor. He's even persuaded his father, Chiubuike, to move in with him, grateful to offer the man who raised him as a single parent a home of his own. Between filming trips, Achike is snatching a few days in London with Ekene, his best friend of 20 years, the person who makes him feel whole. Achike can put the terrible things that happened behind him at last. Everything is going to be all right, maybe even better. But after a magical night when Achike and Ekene come with a hair's breadth of admitting their feelings to each other, a devastating event rips all three men apart. In the aftermath, it is Ekene and Chibuike who must try to rebuild, and although they have never truly understood each other, grief may bring them both the peace and happiness they've been searching for. Oh, this is giving me open water vibes. Very, very excited about this as well. It sounds really good. Next is Losing the Plot, which, is apt for this moment where I'm losing the plot in this video. So yeah, Losing the Plot by Derek Owusu. Driven by a deep-seated desire to understand his mother's life before he was born, Derek Owusu offers a powerful imagining of her journey. As she moves from Ghana to the UK and navigates parenthood in a strange and often lonely environment, the effects of displacement are felt across generations. Told through the eyes of both mother and son, Losing the Plot is at once emotionally raw and playful as Owusu experiments with form of piece together the immigrant experience and explore how the stories we share and tell ourselves are just as vital as the one we don't. This has really struck a chord as someone who, is the child of a displaced person. And yeah, that sounds really, really good. Oh gosh, another one for my TBR. Next we have I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. This is also on the Women's Prize for Fiction Longlist. It's a very short book, I think about Mosi's life and social media and all that. It says, I'm a Fan tells the story of an unnamed narrator's involvement in a seemingly unequal romantic relationship. With a clear and unforgiving eye, Sheena Patel makes startling connections between power struggles at the heart of human relationship to those in the wider world, offering a devastating critique of social media access and patriarchal system. I cannot wait to read this one. I really want to read it, mostly because I'm trying to read the whole long list of the Women's Prize. Cannot find it. I think may have to purchase it on Audible. I try not to do that, but I may have to because I cannot find it anywhere else. But we'll see. I still have some time, but I definitely want to read it. Next we have Hiding to Nothing by Anita Pati. This is a debut collection. I don't know if this short stories or poetry. Let's see. It explores the destabilizing effects of violence, particularly empire's aftermath on a psyche. Threaded with internal dialogue, this multi-layered work witnesses how unbelonging can unsettle perceptions of the brown female body with an unwelcoming, even hostile environment. Hiding to Nothing suggests that complex and damaging legacies in all their forms can create shockwaves that reverberate over a lifetime, stopping lives from reaching their full potential. And the trauma experienced through centuries of colonial history continues to be embodied and enacted. Pati uses an original lyrical approach towards the ambiguities and ambivalences that cloud our decisions. Ultimately, ambient aggressions toward our own and other bodies can only be made good by breaking the cycle. Pati unravels compacted pain, but those looking for easy answers or redemption will find no compromise here. I'm still unsure if this is poetry or short stories or what. It sounds devastating, but also a must read, but I do not know if I have it in me to read this right now, but interesting. Next we have Another Way to Split Water by Alycia, Pirmohamed. This seems to be poetry from what I can get. It says it's a debut collection, and it is about a woman's body expands and contracts across the page. Fog uncoils at the fringes of a forest, and water in all its form cascades into metaphors. of longing and separation, just as often as it signals inheritance, revival, and recuperation. It sounds very lyrical like that, very kind of poetic. And finally, we have The Room Between Us by Denise, Saul. This was also shortlisted for the T.S. Eliot Prize in 2022, so I'm going to say this is definitely poetry. In her debut collection, Denise Saul explores family and identity as she tells the story of a mother's illness and subsequent aphasia and a daughter's ongoing role as carer. At the heart of their relationship is an awareness of the inadequacies of language to name painful experiences as, together, they start to know the world afresh. Deeply affecting, the book finds a space for both the extraordinary and the ordinary, balancing all that is between. Such betweenness creates a space to explore wider dynamics of power and the epiphanies and aftershocks of ongoing loss. Oh, that sounds really beautiful. That sounds like definitely something I would read. What a beautiful, beautiful list. The covers were, striking. The blurb were definitely intriguing. I'm in for this list. You know what? Last year, I think I would have preferred to read the Longlist for the International Booker, but this year, I think my vote's going for the Jhalak Prize. And I know we're not voting between prizes here, but if I was going to spend my time on reading something else in the Women's Prize, it would be this one. And I might have to start looking at some of these books. I think I had started and I could only find one or two of them, unfortunately, like in the easy, like my library and the apps like Libby and stuff. I would love to read this whole entire list if I could. They're announcing the shortlist on the 18th of April, so we have even less time to read the long list than the Women's Prize. But I'm very excited by this. I may wait to see the shortlist. I'll see how much time I have in the next month or so. But yeah, it's a really, really beautiful list, and I want to read all these authors. What did you think about this list? Are you planning on reading any of these books? Are you intrigued by some of them? Have you added them to your TBR? Let me know what your thoughts are as always. And thank you so much for watching. And hey, see you back. Bye.